Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mazius. I'm a player from Crystal Groves. I'm here to talk about the intervals training method. And this class is not going to teach you a specific shot or a specific fighting style. My goal with this class is to teach a method by which you can continue to train and improve over time. So, forgive me if I'm a little bit haphazard. I have not taught this class solo before. For starters, I'm going to talk a little bit about the theory behind intervals and the philosophy behind it. Then I'm going to explain a series of drills, 3 drills, which will be used for single sword intervals. Then we'll perform the single sword intervals. Then we'll take a break, and I'll talk about doing weapon combination intervals, which involves one additional drill. And then we'll do the weapon combination intervals. So all told, I expect this to take about an hour and a half. To start off, intervals are a concept based on the athletic training used in like professional sports teams. And this is something that Sir Tato, who's a warlord, came up with after reading a bunch of books on sports science. And what he says is, I have not read the books that he's read, but if you look at high school level sports, you see people do a lot of drills, like extensive periods of drills. And if you look at professional sports where people are making the big money, they don't do long periods of drills. They do short periods of drills with a lot of scrimmaging in between. And the purpose of this is to keep your brain occupied. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again for like 20 minutes, your brain is not going to retain that information very well. If you do 30 seconds of something, interspersed with a minute of something else and then 30 seconds of something else, you retain more of it relative to the amount of time that you spend. So the ultimate purpose of intervals is to let you get the maximum benefit from the amount of time you spend training. So that's the concept behind intervals. And in terms of the philosophy of intervals, why would you want to do intervals? For me, I love intervals for their own sake, because intervals are where you can get the most fights in the shortest period of time. And I just love the focus of one-on-one fighting. I like that a lot more than the big open battle games. Some people like the battle games, and that's fine too. But I love intervals for their own sake. People who want to be competitive in tournaments will be well served by spending time doing intervals, because this is where you get the most benefit. Now, let's say that you don't really care about your performance in tournaments. What are some other reasons that you might have to participate in intervals? One, it's exercise. So there's a lot of ways to exercise, and a lot of them are not very fun. And I would say this is one of the most fun ways of exercise that I know of, the other one being rock climbing. So that's one reason other than just wanting to get better at fighting. Another very important reason is if you don't particularly care about getting better at fighting, but one of your friends does. By participating in this kind of training and getting better, you help them get better. Because you cannot rise but so far above the people around you. So let's say you really want to be a competitive fighter and the rest of us don't really care. And you put a lot of effort into it. You're going to get better than we will. But you can only get so good relative to us. And when you go to a group that has a more competitive average, the amount of development that you can get here is not going to match what they can get over there. So if the average of the group rises, then the peaks that can be achieved by the people who really want to perform rises even more. So you help your friends by putting effort into developing your skills. And another thing, my personal thought is, being able to put on a good show with fighting is a big thing in terms of catching attention and recruiting new players. if you can get out there and make this look really cool, it's going to be a lot easier to get people's attention. So those are all reasons why intervals are something you might want to include in your regular park day. The typical intervals session takes about an hour. It consists of periods of fighting with and without fighting modifiers, and I'll go into those in a little bit. Periods of drills and periods of rest. And we have audio tracks for all of these. You can add music to them. I add mostly video game music and stuff, so you'll hear that momentarily. And it also defines the rest periods, and every time there's a rest period called, please drink some water. I've got both flavored and unflavored water here, and it's for everybody, so do drink every rest period. Any questions so far? Okay. That basically covers the background for intervals, I would say. There's a little bit about ways to engage in intervals, and this is also kind of a philosophical thing, but the point of the intervals is to get as many fights in as quick a time as possible. So let's say I'm fighting you and we both hit each other. You hit my shoulder, I hit your hip. Who was first? Maybe it was you, maybe it was me, I don't know. Call simul, do it again. Rather than figuring out, well, I think you actually won, but maybe I won because I broke and you didn't, just fight it over again. It's more important to get another fight than to figure out exactly who won. That also, another part of this is, it's not important to keep score about whether you're winning or losing. It is valuable to keep track of what you're doing. So let's say you want to work on one particular shot. Let's say you want to work on a hip scoop to the same side hip, and all you're going to throw is that shot. So you might lose a lot from people sniping your arm before you get in to throw that shot, but that's okay, because the amount of time you're going to spend not fighting compared to the amount of time you're going to spend fighting is going to be very short, because your next fight is coming up in another 2 or 3 seconds. Even in a ditch line, you're not going to get that. So this is a good place to workshop particular shots that you want to work. Or if there's any other thing, let's say you want to do left-handed fighting. I'm right-handed, and I usually do at least 2 sets with left-handed sword and shield when I fight in intervals, just because I think it's something useful to practice. Another one final point is, it's very important to be encouraging for everyone around you. These are a lot of work. If you do intervals properly, it's going to be a lot of work. So you want to make sure everybody's getting as much out of it as they can to make it worth their while. Because I'll be honest, the first times that you do this, you're going to be pretty beat afterwards. Most likely. Maybe not. Maybe you're really in shape. But I know that pretty much everybody who starts these finishes up and they're like,
crawling.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work to do these. And I think it's well worth it. But in order to help everybody also believe that it's worth it, positivity is everything. So if someone lands a good shot on you, say, good shot, congratulations, move on to the next fight. That's basically it. Any questions about any of this?
Like it.
All right. So let me get my gloves, and I'll have a volunteer come up, and we'll start doing some drills. For single sword, there are 5 things that we're going to do. In the set, there's going to be 5 different things that will be called out on the speaker. One of them is just fight winner loser, and that is very simple. You find an opponent, match off, you tap swords, you fight. As soon as the fight is over, you declare either winner or loser, and then you find someone else who has had the same outcome, and you immediately fight them. So, we fight, I lose, I say lose, you also lost. So the next we fight, you won, so you fight him.
Winner
And
loses.
exactly. So that's very simple. And those are the fight segments, which are longer than the drill segments. There will also be some modified fight segments. There are a lot of drills and modifiers that I will not be covering today. There's a YouTube playlist with all the drills on it that covers everything. And I can also go over some more stuff later if people want. But I'm going to keep it real simple starting out. So the one modifier that we're going to cover today is called Comeback Bubble, and it gives you the effect of blessing against wounds for the loser of a fight. So let's say we square off and he kills me. So instead of me matching up with someone else who lost, as the loser, I match up with somebody else who won, and I have resistance to wounds. I ignore the first hit that I take. So if you win, you'll find someone who lost, and they will have resistance to wounds in the first hit that they take.
And that's an alternate to the spar win-loss upper number.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's used to kind of even things out. For example, if someone is, say, winning a lot with one particular shot, let's say that you've got a hip wrap that's really good, and you kill everybody with this hip wrap. Giving your opponent the ability to ignore their first hit makes you work on developing something else, because maybe your hip wrap comes in and it's a great shot, but if it doesn't kill them, what are you going to do? Because now you're exposed, your arm's out here and your shoulder's right here. So it forces you to develop some alternate things. It also gives the people who are not winning much a chance to work on their techniques a little bit more without being killed quite so quickly. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
So that will be called out as an alternative to the fight segments. Now those are the two fights, one fight and the fight modifier. Then there are 3 drills that will be performed with the single sword. There's one static drill and there's 2 moving drills. The first static drill is called top quadrant block strike, and the block strike for single sword divides the body into 4 quadrants, with the dividing line being at the level of the diaphragm and down the midline of the body. So there's 2 other breakdowns of the quadrants. We're not going to go into those today. The only one we're going to do is top quadrants. So the purpose of this is to focus on shots landing above the diaphragm. And the way it works, this way just a little bit, I'm just trying to get right in front of it. You want to stand in range of your opponent such that both of you are able to strike each other in the upper torso. So, yeah, we're both close enough. And you stand in your guard, and one person throws a shot, the other person blocks, and then returns a shot, block, shot, block. You don't typically move your feet. If there's a big range discrepancy between you and your partner, then you can take little steps to adjust the range. But it's not primarily a movement drill. You don't feint in this drill. There are other drills where you do. And if you're, say, you don't throw combinations or anything, you just throw one shot as clean as you can and then recover back to your guard position, because as soon as they block, they're going to be throwing back at you. So it's all about take your shot and get back into your guard. So this is just basic block strike, but it focuses on a particular quadrant. And we can demonstrate that. So up there, and you're in range of me also. Okay, so just throw and block.
Come on, Larry, hit him. Oh, I'm supposed to be. He's like, I don't know what is going on here.
Yeah, it's
Good
combo.
stuff, good stuff. Okay, so everybody pair up with somebody and practice this for a couple minutes, and I'll walk around and make sure that everything is good. All right, so that's our single sword static drill, top quadrant block strike.
Cool.
May I have another volunteer to demonstrate the movement drill? The first of our movement drills. There's going to be 2 movement drills. The movement drills are attack, block, attack, or ABA, and block, attack, block, or BAB. And these definitions refer to what the moving person is doing. Both of these drills start with the people too far away to engage each other. So you want to start outside of either of your engagement ranges. One person will initiate the drill, the other person will respond, and then you'll separate and the other person will initiate the drill. So attack, block, attack is the first of these drills. And the purpose of this drill is to develop your ability to move into an effective range and to launch an effective combination of attacks. So I'm going to start out here and I'll move. And I'm going to lunge in and I'm going to throw a shot.
Okay.
You'll block. You return a shot.
Okay.
I block.
Okay.
And then I throw one more shot and you block. So attack, block, attack. And then you'll lunge in at me and throw a shot. And I block and return.
Okay.
And then you throw one more. Good. So then I come back in like this. Attack, block, attack. And then you come in at me. Attack, block.
Oh, I was going for a block, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Here, we'll do it again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Attack, block, attack. Good. And then attack, block, attack. Good. So that's the ABA drill, and the moving person picks the range of the engagement. Again, if there is a big discrepancy of reach, so like if I'm matching off with you, and we've got a big discrepancy in range, and I pick a range that is, here, can you come up here so that the camera can see? So I can hit you from out here. So let's say I move in and launch my first attack here, and then you block it, and you are going to throw back, but I'm way out here. So you can move to get into an engagement range that's more suitable for you. It's not typically a big movement on the part of the person who's responding to the drill, but if it is a big range discrepancy, you can certainly make a small movement to get into a range where you can make a counter shot at. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's pair up again and workshop that for a couple minutes, and then we'll do one more drill example. We'll take a break for a minute, and then we'll do our actual intervals. Cool. One thing I forgot to say, when you're launching your attacks in this drill, the best practice is to aim at hips and above. You can make leg shots if you want, but it's not as much benefit. This is something I just forgot to say. Making leg shots in this kind of drill is not as high benefit as making hip shots and above, because the best defense against a leg shot is either to counter the person in the body or to move. And both of those are not options that work in the drills. So my recommendation is focus on body shots and arm shots when you're doing the drills. Does that make sense? How does everybody feel with this drill?
I like it.
Good there.
Oh yeah, I like it a lot.
Take a break for a minute, get some water.
Lighter practice there.
Okay, so one hand.
All right, let's do one more drill explanation.
I'm down for this. Where's the sword?
Attack, and then return to your block position. Just try to get the other shoulder. Attack.
And I'll have a third volunteer, please.
If you don't want. Hey, it's getting blue sky out too.
Some sun.
I know.
All right. So this is our third drill. This one is a variation of the one we just did. It's another movement drill. and it's called block, attack, block, or BAB. In this one, it begins the same as the other drill, outside of engagement range. One person walks in, and I typically do this with my guard down. I don't walk in ready, because this drill is about surviving when you get into somebody else's range, sometimes without realizing it. Say it's on a field game, or if you underestimate somebody's ability to close distance in a tournament. This is about surviving from a suboptimal start. For the standing person, this is about picking the optimal engagement range on somebody who's moving in on them. So the standing person picks the range. The moving person is trying to survive at that suboptimal range. So what I'm going to do is walk in, and when I reach a distance where you believe you have a good shot on me, you'll throw a shot, I block it, I throw one back, you block it, and then you throw one more. So it's
So the one that's moving is the one for forward guard, and the one that's standing is the one that's ready to attack?
yes, yes. This is different from ABA, because in ABA, the person moving in, comes in ready to swing. In BAB, I come in and I have to respond to what you do. So I'll walk in, throw back, one more, perfect. So then you walk in, and I throw, you throw, I throw. Good. And I come in. Good. 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 Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like you're being caught unawares at first.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, match up, and we'll do this for a couple minutes, and then we'll start the actual ends.
All right. Well, there comes the sun.
That round dungeon crawl.
All right.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
If everybody's ready, we can start combos. And for combos, you'll need 2 pieces of equipment of your choice. You can use a shield. You can. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you please not be in front of the
Hey,
camera?
come on.
Thank you.
He's recording it.
Okay.
Okay. So you stay over here with us.
So you'll need 2 pieces of equipment: Florentine, sword and down spear, sword and shield. You can use a great weapon if you want to, but great weapons are tricky to do the drills with unless your opponent is also using a great weapon. So great weapons really should be used in pairs. Because if I've got Florentine and you've got an 8-foot spear, ABA is going to be tricky. And so is Grind.
I'll grab my war pole.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly do that, but it's going to be awkward.
I'm not that guy.
Okay. I mean, I think it's useful to practice with great weapons, but it's tricky. It requires some adaptation. So for combos, the fight segments will be the same. It'll be winner, loser fighting, and there will also be comeback bubble, and that will be exactly the same as with single sword. We'll be doing 3 different drills, and these are grind, ABA, and BAB, which are the same that we did for single. And there's some slight differences. So grind is a block strike drill, and if I may have someone come up. So this works very similar to the top quadrant block strike, but we open it up to all 4 quadrants. Ideally, you don't want to be throwing anything lower than the hips, because as I said to a couple of people earlier, if I'm going to throw way down here, that's his good response to it, but that's not the block strike response to it. And the other response, of course, is just get out of the way. And in a grind drill, you're not going to be, taking big movements either. So, preferably, you want to keep your shots into areas that would result in a kill in a turn. So, anything hips and above, or arm shots are also fine. Because you're supposed to defend your arm with your arm. So you get in a position where both of you are in range. It's going to be more about you being in range because I don't range. And then one person initiates and throws a shot, the other person blocks, throws back, returns, throws. First person throws again, throws. And you just go back and forth trading shots. It's a 1-to-1 tempo, and you get to wherever point, whatever speed you can comfortably attain.
Okay.
So if we want to split up into pairs, practice this a little bit, and see how it goes. Grab water.
This little shield's
I
fun.
say shields are definitely one of the things I have a hard time getting around.
Well, this will give you a practice.
Yeah.
I had car troubles. I'm also used to having just slightly extra range.
So, the other two drills that we'll be using during combos are ABA and BAB, and they are very similar to their variants in single sword. What you may want to do, there's a couple of small changes that you may want to make. Can I have someone with a shield come up? You would be better.
You got a better shield.
Okay.
Mine covers my hand.
So, the optimal engagement range for the moving person may be significantly different based on the equipment that their opponent is using. So, if I'm trying to get around that big shield, I may end up lunging in. Like if I was just lunging in for single, I might lunge to here. Shield down just for a second, because I can hit you from here. But if you bring your shield up, I don't have much. So I'm going to have to lunge closer in order to get around that shield. So that's going to be a variation. Whereas if you're fighting someone who's using Florentine, he doesn't necessarily have to lunge in any further for combos than he does for single, because effectively he's fighting single sword against pretty much somebody who's fighting single sword. Now, even if you're using Florentine, throw with both weapons as you see fit, but you don't throw two at the same time.
Goal shots.
We don't do.
The lobster claw.
The atomic seagull.
The purpose is still to practice the individual strikes, and we still are not focusing on feinting or anything like that during the drills. Does that all make sense? So for ABA, we start off just like before, outside of I'm going to lunge in.
Let me roll, but I'm gonna go see my sister before she leaves
I
back
block,
town.
and then I throw one. So you'll lunge in.
You threw the wrong thing.
So I'll lunge in. Good. And you can lunge, particularly against a player who's using a shield. You don't have to lunge straight at him. You can lunge offline. So for example, I can go out to here, and you can respond to that. You can pivot in response. Because I might lunge out here, and I then throw here.
He baited you.
Yeah, I set you up. So that's ABA with combos.
Cool.
If we want to split up and practice that for a minute or so, and then we'll do BAB, and then we'll start the music again.
Oh.
All right, so the final drill that we'll do today, combo BAB.
Okay.
And it works very similar to single short BAB. If I may have someone up to practice.
Okay, Lau.
All right. So in this case, because we're both using Florentine, it's going to work very similar to single sword. So I'll walk in and he'll throw. I block, throw back, and he throws one more. You can alternate which sword is throwing, but again, we don't try to throw both at the same time. Fair enough. Because that's not the purpose of this drill.
Not yet, not yet.
So you walk in, and I'll initiate.
Yeah, you're caught unawares. You're getting caught unawares.
Standing person initiates. So you walk in, I throw, you throw, I throw. Good. So then I walk in. Good. I typically do walk in with my guard up when I'm like doing Florentine versus Florentine in particular, because there's the problem space of Florentine versus Florentine is a lot bigger than for single sword. There's a lot more that can happen. Everybody partner up. We'll do this for a minute or so. Make sure that you're feeling okay with it, and then we'll drink water, and then we'll start the music.
All right.